went out to a racetrack in Austin, Texas, and I'm going to take you through a bit about flying the Inspire 3 over a racetrack, what it was like, how challenging it could be as a single operator, and hopefully you learn a little bit from this. So while we were out there, I was filming an event, different types of formats were going on. I was also doing groundwork, and I brought the Inspire 3 over the Mavic 3, even as a single operator, because I found that it was so much more agile. And when you're flying with race cars, you have to be able to keep up with them. So the Mavic 3 really doesn't have the speed, power, or torque to keep up with race cars on a racetrack. And that's why I brought the Inspire 3, even as a single operator. Now, there are a lot of auto intelligent features in the Inspire 3, which, if you don't know about, I'm going to go through a couple of them today, that help the single op. But there's still also a lot of faults, which I was able to also understand during this trip. I was also encountering a lot of problems when I was flying out there. My FPV gimbal on the Inspire 3 kind of just went down. It was not working. It turned into, I wasn't able to tilt up and down on the axis. There was something in the motor that was having an issue, and I still haven't fixed it. I'm a little nervous to send the drone out for repair right now with everything going on with DJI and the tariffs, to make sure I get the drone back, if you know what I mean. Couple shots here. I'm just going to take you through some of the screen recordings of the drone over the racetrack. Of course, you're flying in these high intense environments, and I'm off right to the side of the track there. In most of these shots, I'm either standing on the bridge or I'm right off to the side where the photo holes would be. And so what I'm doing is I tried to set up as many waypoint pros as possible. That way I could 3D dolly along the racetrack and single-handedly operate the gimbal with the two sticks on the top of the Plus. But of course, it all comes down to how smooth your gimbal settings really are. When you're flying over a racetrack, you always want to be wary of your voltage too, because when you're pushing super hard to try and follow a car, even though you're at 18% or a low percentage, it'll drop really fast and you'll lose that high-end torque. Now, one of my main problems was the AI feature, the AI tracking feature with the Inspire 3. I read on the website there's a way to enable, because you know, when you have the RC Plus in front of you, you have to click on the screen when the AI tracking appears. But I thought there were buttons on the controller, so I checked every single one, C2, C1, C3, to be able to find this auto select feature, which was not possible. My hands would have to leave the sticks every time I wanted to select an AI tracking point. And that turned out to be a huge problem for me. I really could not figure out what was happening in terms of why is this not working. So here's a good example. I have the AI auto detect on. You have the track C2 button. I want to select the motorcycle rider, but before we're able to press C2, it's asking me to select which one of the 20 points that I want. And I should be able to point my crosshairs over one of the tracking points and just press C2 right onto it. I shouldn't have to manually select. This is where dual operator really comes in handy on a set like this. Especially when you're filming motorcycles and fast cars on a racetrack, dual opping is by far the best way to do it. Here's a perfect example. I'm flying forward full screen. I press C2 to track, and then I switch over to the FPV gimbal to see where my drone is going. The only reason this really works even so well as a single op is because the track is wide open. I understand that the track is perfectly clear. Here we go. We lost the point. But most of the time I was just flying manual with smoother gimbal settings, you know, just to adjust it. In terms of Waypoint Pro, I did notice that when you're flying, if you're not able to control the gimbal as you're flying, it is better just to set maybe 3 to 5 points. Allowing auto select for every 3 seconds if you're not controlling the gimbal at the same time, is going to create for some unstable movements. So you're better off almost AI tracking or selecting your point of, your point of interest, and then 3D tracking that and then flying the drone along the route. That would be the best way to do it in my experience personally. So here's a good example of tracking these two cars down the racetrack, and I'm just doing it manually at this point because I know my hands can't leave the sticks and I'll lose track of the cars. So I even overshoot it on this 50, basically because I can't find the buttons on the controller, like auto detect, and then I should just press C2 right onto it and it should just boom, lock right on. And then I can reassume manual control of the drone. At this point I'm flying just along the same route. I know that there's no objects in my rear view, so I'm able to focus heavily on the gimbal instead of flying, as long as I maintain a certain height. What I did here with the tracking shots was a lot of people use black arms, Flow Cine Blacks, to really get smooth shots. We didn't have that type of equipment here on the set. So what I did was I just took the props off the drone, set it up, threw a 50 mil onto it, and I should have put it in attitude mode, but I just kept it in tripod or sport. Anything to really disable all the sensors, because I was already so focused on the shoot that I should have threw it in attitude. The shots did come out really nice for what they were. I was really impressed with the overall quality of the frames in terms of what I was able to achieve on such a fast setup. Really pretty amazing stuff. Can we just get some rollers really quick from the ground point? I was going to shoot it on my FX3 stabilized, but this is way better actually. I had the dual op controller in hand controlling the gimbal, and the client actually had the master in the passenger seat. I removed the sticks so that they didn't accidentally start the motors, but they were able to see director's monitor type of quality of the shots that I was getting at that exact moment. We were able to orchestrate a little bit of some planned movements here. We had radios in the other cars, and you can see I have full screen on the dual op controller, and I just put the preview frame of the actual D-Log export. We shot this in ProRes 422 because DNG is just simply overkill. ProRes 422, more than enough. Great highlights, great shadows. And the shots were really amazing, what I was able to capture in such short notice. I also did shots on the motorcycles, which I personally loved. I thought it was one of the coolest things. And we were able to get some really smooth cinematic aerials. I was inside of the truck, flying solo op, using the AI tracking across the main car here. And that's the only reason this was really possible, is because of the AI feature. So I'm flying super low to the ground. I'm focused on simply the drone at this point. My biggest mistake here, my biggest takeaway, was that I flew too wide. I probably should have flown 35. I think I flew 18 on this. This looks like an 18 millimeter. So I should have flown 35 or even 24, which is the worst lens ever. But I just flew a little bit too wide open here as well, 2.8. But the tracking was incredibly impressive. And it was impressive because it was, here we get really low to the car, because of how wide the camera angle was and how I was able to keep them in frame the entire time. So I have the driver in the front as well of this Ram pickup truck kind of guiding me along, telling me, hey, bridges in 100 yards. Even though I'm perfectly focused on this, I was also flying backwards, The drone is behind me, so I'm kind of trying to keep everything all together at one point here, which this is definitely, I want to say, a more of an advanced skill set, and I would not recommend just trying this right off the rip, or even solo op for that matter. You can tell here the bridge comes up and the truck is also 7-8 feet off the ground, so I lower last minute because if I can't see the truck in frame, it's somewhere underneath me. And then here they also kind of fall back quite a bit. So with this transmission system, I was really able to, my radios were pointing in a different direction than the drone was. And here is kind of my favorite shot where they pull up ahead of the main car. Even though I'm still tracking the car, like it looked really awesome. And those are definitely some demo reel shots right there. Really beautiful. Now here I lose track of the car, and again I'm flying facing forward. I'm trying to track as fast as possible. I lose the track. This is something I'm gonna have to troubleshoot and find out about, because I can't have this happen on the next shoot. I need to be able to solo op track without pressing the screen. If anybody has any answers to that, that would be extremely helpful, and I would be eternally grateful to figure that out. Just some really cool frames here, you know. I think the 18 was a good call on this one because I'm flying solo to the ground. You have the massive tower in front of you, and I'm just switching between views at this point, trying to keep up. But did a whole lap, a whole 3.6 miles on 40%, which is really good, flying so slow. The bikes actually ended up overheating because they were flying so slow. This would be ideal for dual op or FPV. Solo op at 18 millimeters. We're really just capturing some B-roll here. Nothing's gonna be too fast, but it's gonna look good for the edit. We're gonna be able to chop it up, and I was able to. I later took the footage, decided how I wanted to use it, and made something of it. Flying at tracks like this, you have to have certain amount of expertise. There's a lot of liability involved when any type of flight, but specifically around race cars, high-end film chases, and with waivers and permits for this type of filming. Not to mention if drivers want to be filmed, if they want to see their content out, which some drivers are actually very private and don't want to see any of their cars mentioned anywhere in any videos. So there's a lot of factors to take into accountability here when you're doing these type of shoots. I've got some B-roll here of how some of the shots turned out. Like you can tell there are brief, very brief moments in each frame where it makes sense to use it. Otherwise, the camera's too shaky, the movements aren't as good, and the single op was definitely very tough. And yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this little brief description of what it's like to fly at a racetrack. If you have any questions or if you have any answers for me about flying the Inspire 3, that would be great. I'm looking forward to shooting another video soon. Thanks.